Hi everyone, it's Shane, and today I want to talk about the theme of power, money, greed, desire, all of those things, and how we can relate it to the Lord of the Rings. Yes, we're continuing our series on the Lord of the Rings. Today, I want to talk about the one ring to rule them all. Now, I want to talk about this because the world seems to run on money, and most of the time it does, right? But that doesn't mean that money is the most important thing in the world. As we have seen from countless morals that we have read about since we were in preschool, there are a lot of things that are more important than money. But most of the time, the villains of the story do not seem to realize this. They care about power, money, desire, all the things that the ring represents. The ring is a very interesting character because it is not a person. Right? So people can say, "Oh, it is a person." I'm not going to say it isn't a character because it speaks to the person, the ring bearer, right? But at the same time, I think that it's still not a person. It's more of an object. It's an object that has great influence and control over whoever has it. And this, I think Tolkien has created a world that's perfect for displaying his theme. Like, nobody could have done it better. I mean, maybe somebody could have, but I have not seen a better way to explore this theme of the power of money. The ring represents desire and all of those things because of the fact that like it's not alive. So if it's a person representing like whatever you desire, for example, like the main character like has a crush on somebody else, you can say, oh, that's just like a theme about like love or something like that. But it's not. The ring isn't a person in that way. It's still an object, and yet it's the object that really feeds and grows the desire of the people that, well, like bears it, I guess. Wears it, bears it. Basically the same thing. And that's really how special Tolkien made it. Tolkien's an absolute genius. Like, I think that his books are some of the best ever written. But anyway, the themes are obviously there, right? But let's kind of explore deeper and how and what Tolkien really wants to let us know about all of these things. I think that there are a few big themes. First of all, this desire can lead people crazy. And I think the best way to look at this is Gollum, right? Gollum is like the universal person who was driven to do bad things. Now he looks like this, right? Gollum, he changed physically, but also mentally, right? He was once like a hobbit. He was once like a miniature person. But then, as the ring took control of him, he began to love its power. And think about the ring as representing power, desire, all those things. And he began to really love that thing. And because of that, he's driven to the dark caves of the goblins. He's driven to the point that he is not human anymore, but an immortal old relic of himself that is held on, that clings on to life just by the power of the ring. To the point that existence is not existence anymore. Most people would say that living in a lake, a subterranean lake, where there's no light, no entertainment, no nothing, nobody else, and the only way that, and the only entertainment being the occasional fish, nobody would say that that is a way that they would like to live. Most people would say, you know what, just let me rest in peace, okay? I don't want to live that life. The thing is, Gollum represents all the horrible things that one can do. The point that those things, that desires can drive somebody to the point that they are living a life that's not even worth living, but still clinging on at that point with no common sense, simply because of the fact that they have the ring. They want to get what they want. So I think that this is very important. Gollum is like the number one way that we can look at this. And also, it's very critical because if you think about it, right, Gollum, he, in the movies, and at this point, like, I've read the movies and the books so much that sometimes I say, oh, in the book, XYZ happened, it turns out it was in the movie. And I'll say, oh, in the movie, XYZ happened, and it turns out it was in the book. So, at least in the movie, I remember that this was definitely in the movie. I'm pretty sure this was in the book, but it's like gotten so interchangeable. But I know that in the movie, at least, Gollum kills his friend for the ring. They were just fishing together, but the moment that Gollum saw the ring, it had such a control over him. Even though it wasn't even that powerful, that was enough to drive him to kill his friend. I think that shows just how big the influence of such things are. Now, I also think that Tolkien wanted to give us a bit of hope after that lesson that basically said, we're kind of doomed. We always love money. Because it turns out that not all of us love money or power or desire, or like the things that we really desire or dream for. Because of the fact that Frodo survives. Because of the hobbits. Because of all the people who work and fight tirelessly to stop the ring's power. Of course, Frodo is also very influenced by the ring. In fact, in the movie version, he actually says, no, I'm not going to throw the ring in. He puts on the ring, he walks away. And the only thing that really stops him is Gollum, who in a mad, desperate attempt to get the ring, I honestly don't think that if Frodo had just been left alone, he probably would not have even given the ring. Now, this might just seem like this might make us, everything seem like we're doomed, but I don't think so. I think that Tolkien is saying that all of us, even the bravest, even the most noble, even the most popular people, we all have the weakness. Like, nobody's free from it. You can say, oh, look at that wise old sage over there. He's like, or like, just pick up, like, think of like any pop culture icon, like Luke Skywalker or Captain America, right? They don't really care about those things. They just care about saving and helping people. But the thing is, even those amazing people have a weakness. It might not necessarily be the same thing, but it is a weakness. I think that Tolkien is trying to say that we all have a weakness, but that still some of us have the ability to fight it better than others. Because while we all have a weakness, and that's something that we cannot fight, we can fight, we can still try to fight. Because Frodo, even though he had that weakness, he was still able to traverse the entirety of Middle-earth. And he was able to, at the end of the day, even if by unforeseen consequences, he did complete his mission. He was able to scale the high and steep slopes of Mount Doom, and he was able to throw the ring in. Even if people say that he had a weakness, Tolkien still offers us hope. Even though we are weak in some areas, even though people can be influenced a lot by those things, we can still fight it. And if we fight it, then even if it is hard, we can still, in some way or another, we can do it. Even though Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli must all have been influenced by the ring, they didn't take it. Even though Merry and Pippin and Gandalf and all of those people were influenced by the ring, they didn't take it. They fought bravely. If you don't like Frodo because you think, oh, Frodo, he kind of completed his mission by mistake, think about Sam. Think about all of those people and how they were able to fight. Sam helped Frodo in the moments when Frodo was despairing. And that really, I think, is the theme of the Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings talks about a ring. It talks about human nature itself. Tolkien is exploring how humans or people or animals, or like, you get the point, right? I guess that none of these people, none of the characters are like hobbits and dwarves and elves and all that. But the point is that while we all are weak, we can fight. And when we fight, we can get to a better world. I want to end off by saying that Tolkien has probably seen this himself. He fought in World War One, and he also, he didn't fight in World War Two, but he witnessed World War One and World War Two. It's horrors. He witnessed how much greed and power and those wishes that everybody wants can drive people to madness, to the madness of war. War is when the killing of others is justified. It is one of the most inhumane and the most dangerous. And I think it is one of the most violent, dangerous, inhumane things that humanity has ever invented. And seeing those things, I think that Tolkien was really influenced by that. I don't know for sure because I'm not Tolkien. But if I were him, and I lived through 2 entire world wars where evil and tyrannical dictators were always trying to take control of the world. They were trying to wipe out ethnic minorities. He lived through the Holocaust. He lived through like a lot of other like wars as well. I think that it really cemented upon him. These things can really drive people to war. As we saw, right? They can drive people to war. They can drive people to kill. And it just has a very, very big impact. But not to despair. Because I think that Tolkien still gives us the hope that we can fight it. And the best way to do it is with this quote. Okay. Honestly, again, I honestly have no idea if this was from the book or the movie. Peter Jackson, the director of the movies, has really designed the movies in a way that they're like really on par with what the books are saying. They don't like slide against each other, but they kind of go together really well, which is why I think that the Lord of the Rings books and the movies have equal acclaim. So, I don't think it actually matters. So if you really, 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 really don't want to read the book, I think that watching the movie is a good way to get you introduced. You should still read the book. It's like a different experience in my opinion. But still, I think that if you really don't want to read it, watch the movie first and then read it. And yeah, again, I don't know if this is a quote from that, but it does quote from the book or the movie. But I think it really represents in a very short and beautiful way the theme of the Lord of the Rings, and this applies to both versions. Frodo says to Sam that he cannot do this. Sam says in response, "It's all wrong." I know it's all wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even be here. But we are. It's like the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it'll shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you. That meant something, even if you're too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I do now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going. That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. I think this is an excellent quote because it really just tells us that we have to fight. Okay. I think that Tolkien is trying to tell us, even though we all have these weaknesses, even though things like the ring, even though things like power and those things can corrupt and corrupt us and drive us to do horrible things, there's always goodness in the world. Even if these influences are against us, the book also tells us that there is always good in the world worth fighting for. There is always something worth fighting for. And at the end of no matter what, we will see something better. I think it's just an inspirational quote overall, which is why I want to show it to you, just because of the fact it really does just encapsulate one of the main themes of the Lord of the Rings. I don't think it connects like amazingly to what we're talking about, but I also think it's just a great theme captured in this quote. And also, second, I also think it does kind of relate to this, because I'm telling you, look, at the end of the day, there are things worth fighting for. We should not despair. Tolkien is trying to tell us that while we do have weaknesses, we can also have strengths. And I think that this is just a great example of that. So, The Lord of the Rings is not an adventure story, but instead, it is an adventure story, but I think that it is also a careful examination of human nature. Why, how, or in what ways humans respond, or why they respond. And I think that The Lord of the Rings, as you read through it, it is a beautifully written examination into such things. It tells us that we have weaknesses, but also strengths. It tells us that there's always hope, even in the darkest of times. In other words, we're going to be doing another entire series about the actual books, starting with the first one, which we're going to be making like 10 videos about, because I've decided that it's really, really, really good. I'll see you in the next video about the Fellowship of the Ring. As for the Hobbit movies, I know I've promised multiple times I'm going to be talking about them. Luckily for everybody here, I am actually watching the first Hobbit movie. Honestly, I think I like the book better. But the Hobbit movie is also really fun, and some people will disagree. And honestly, some parts, I honestly feel that the movie is more fun or just is better than the book. But obviously, Peter Jackson did change a lot of things, so it will be hard to do a direct side-by-side comparison. But I think that the changes will make the discussion even more interesting. I'll see you next time, and have a great rest of your day. Bye!